For those of you who don't know me, my name's Mary. I am an account manager here at KTL. I've been with KTL about 4 years, always in a sales role. Right now I manage existing customers as well as new business. I manage not only our GP customers, but also CRM and custom dev, as well as Office 365 customers as well. I'm also a member of a few local Microsoft boards around here. So here is the man that you really came to hear speak today, Barry Crowell. Barry has been with KTL for about 6 years, but he has over 20 years of experience working in the Dynamics GP and accounting industries. He's been an end user as well as a consultant. Barry's worked across a vast amount of industries, including casinos, tribal governments, housing authorities, universities. Not only is he a great Dynamics GP consultant, but he's also a Microsoft SQL certified professional. Barry heads up our business intelligence and data warehousing department here at KTL. So he's worked across the SSRS stack and Microsoft's other business intelligence tools such as Power BI, and also some third-party business intelligence tools such as Solver. So here's our agenda today. We're going to go through the Dynamics GP roadmap quickly to just show you where GP has been and is headed. We'll do a quick licensing refresh for everyone. We'll go over the new features in GP 2018, and then we will also be demoing some of those exciting features as well. Then at the end, I'll show you the resources that you'll have available to you for GP 2018 after this webinar. So this might look familiar to some people. Here is the Dynamics GP 2018 roadmap. As you can see, since 2015, Microsoft has been pushing a lot of much asked for features into GP. You can see back in that first column for GP 2015 where workflow was first introduced, and now we've gotten much more advanced in this version with our workflows and document attach. There's also been some user experience features that have been added, as well as finance and HR optimization. So don't worry if this looks very small. We'll be sending a document out with all of this information in it as well. This is the perpetual licensing from Microsoft. If you're on version GP 2013 or newer, this is the licensing that you have available to you. If you're on an older version, you are still on older module-based licensing, where you're buying different features a la carte. Everything is in packs now. So you'll see the orange is a starter pack. So these are modules that every single person who owns GP has available to them. Then you'll see the kind of dark blue is the customization pack and extended human resources. And then you'll see the light blue is the extended pack as well. So you also have 3 different user types, which will be outlined in that document as well. They're full, limited, and self-service. So it's important to familiarize yourself with this because a lot of people don't know what they have available to them in their GP system. So I encourage everyone to take a look at this and then come back to us or your VAR and see what you're not taking advantage of. So these are the major areas of update that Microsoft has rolled out for GP 2018. So you can see we have comprehensive doc attach, workflows, Power BI integration, some payroll and HR updates, and enhanced user experience. We're not going to demo all of these, but we're going to show you the exciting ones today. Okay.
So some of the things that have been added to 2018 is the login remembered for the system manager password. And that has always been a big pain when you're doing system admin stuff, to constantly have to add in the password when you're, say, setting up a new user. You first have to add the password in to add the user, then you have to add the password in again to basically give the user access to which companies within inside the system, and then add the password in again to then give the user access to which roles within each company. This is now memorized the first time that you do it during that session. If you log out of GP and then log back in, you will be required to be put in the system manager password once again, but if your session is current, you won't need to do it. Then links to the customer's vendors notes have been added to many of the inquiry windows, and we'll get into demoing this in a little bit. But you can now query the doc attach information, drill back to the doc attach, and also add additional documents in the inquiry windows. And then we have the additional sorting options from the lookup window, and then requiring password or a unique password on smart lists or on your favorites. So if you shared out your favorite smart list before, somebody could change it. Now you can put passwords on your smart list and basically save what has been done. So one of the first things we're going to look at is the new doc attach functionality in 2018. So it's been added to 2 additional windows, and that's the receivings transaction entry window in payables, and then the general ledger transaction entry window in GP finance. So if we look at the receivings transaction entry window, the information has been put into the ribbon, and that's basically an attachment right here. When you see just the paper clip, that means that there's no attachments to the window, and there's nothing really to view. Now, if you're in, say, the inquiry window, inadvertent hit. When you look at this inquiry window, you can see that now the paper clip has an attachment paper to it, and that means that there's an attachment to this record. And I'm on the inquiry window. I can simply bring up the document attachments, and clicking on a row, I can then view the data. I can delete the data if I so choose, and that, in a sense, only removes it back to this tab. So it still provides some history there. And then if I have a scanner attached, I can scan directly into this window, or I can attach by simply going out to my local drives, finding the record that I want, and attaching it. So for those not using it, it's a very simple process to attach those records. It's you just go down to Tools, Setup, Company, and Doc Attachment Setup. From there, you allow document attachments, have a general location where the document will be temporarily stored while it's being imported into the system. Delete the file after it's been attached. Whether you want to allow the deletions of files, whether you want to allow that attachments in the inquiry window, and then being able to basically have the attachment flow to the maintenance card or items when you're doing it, and being able to email the attachments. It's very simple. There is a process. Yeah, if you're still on the old network drive where you attach the document within a note. So if you had the attachment back out here on a note file and it was saved to a network drive rather than now inside of your database, there is a process during the upgrade to basically capture those attachments and bring them into the system. Just let us know, or your VAR, that you have this setting and attachments out there, so that we can account for it and run the migration tool during the upgrade process. So we talked about the inquiry window, modifying that attachment. You have the ability to drill down back into the transaction. So that's some of the comprehensive things inside the system. And so we already discussed that. Now onto some more of the enhancements for a workflow perspective. So now we've gotten the workflow for GL account approvals, reminder emails for during the workflow, and copying workflow steps, workflow reporting inside of GP, and then PO invoicing workflow. So let's take a look at some of those that information. So first of all, we'll look at the setup, and that the workflow setup is at a company level. So there's 3 main fields. It's the maintenance field initially, and that's where we set up our workflow, how we want to do it. So the workflows we have available for us is finance. So you have both your account and batch, a sales for a receiving batch, purchasing, you have payables by batch or transaction, either or, you can have both. Purchase order, requisitions, if you're using requisitions inside of GP, purchasing, invoicing, receiving, and then vendor approval. And then payroll if you're using payroll. And then projects for expense and timesheets. So we're going to look at the payables batch. And you can have additional steps in here. The one thing that they added in this version is the ability to do reminder emails. So you can set a time that the reminder is. This person has an 8-hour limit for their approval tree. You can, after they get the first email, they can have it at, say, 2 hours that I'm putting in here, and you can designate a message that they're going to get with included attachments for the documentation. I can simply now copy this step rather than starting over to create a new step, and that's added into this version. Additionally, there is a Dex Any setting, and this is on one of the slides, that opens up, and what you're seeing here is the opened up editor, but it makes any dexterity table available for that conditional editor. Without that setting, you're limited to what you see there. We'll get to in a screenshot, but this makes it a lot more dynamic in how that workflow is going to kick off. So in this case, with the batch ID contains the word John, it would go to Colleen. So one of the things that you were missing in the newer or older versions of workflow was any type of reporting inside the system. Now you have reporting inside of GP for the workflows, and that's simply in the admin module underneath the reports, and then company workflow history. You'll be able to then put in your range of dates, or manager or user, and then print the report. And this is the way that the report comes out with what the batch was, the origin, who the manager was, where it went to from a user perspective, it was submitted, its final approval, when the dates were. This is a much needed improvement. Before this, we were actually deploying a custom script view and adding it to smart lists. And we can make this available for anybody also, but we were doing the reporting inside the smart list by just adding that view through Smart List Designer, giving you the same information and actually a little bit more with object ID and where it may be at, and also the comments that are within that workflow if people are leaving comments during the workflow initiation. So we looked at the workflow, we looked at the reminder emails, copying the steps, the workflow reporting. And this is where we talked about that information. So self-service, you can have enhanced emails. Project accounting has had some workflow improvements. Purchasing for the enter match invoice has been improved, has some additional improvements. And then the payout, additional fields for the workflow. And then we talked about here's the conditional editor as you see it standard-wise, and so you're very limited in what you can see or attach conditions to. And this DEX any setting down below, it will add the additional functionality that I demoed before of all of the additional DEX tables to add conditions to. Some of the other enhancements from a HR payroll perspective is they have roll down on the setups to now even the inactive records, or you also have the ability to turn off garnishment reports for the posting setup if you don't need those printed out at the time of the check run. Change the department code for all data tables, so you now see the department, and then restrict inactive deductions and benefit codes from the lookup windows. This is a much needed streamlining for that, and I'm not going to do a demo on that since most of our customers are using outsource. But if you need additional information or want to discuss the payroll aspect, I'll be more than happy to set up one-on-one and review any of that data with you. So one of the things that has been a big part of the new GP 2018, and it has been part of since 2016, is the OData, but now that we're doing the content packs with Power BI. So for those that don't know what Power BI is, it's an analytic tool that Microsoft has come out with. You have a desktop version that you use to basically create your visuals, and then you publish it to the service where you can see the dashboard, share the dashboard with people. You can be updated real time if it's an IoT type of streaming feed, or you can set up refreshes of that data so people can even see the data in GP on the go from a mobile app or their iPad or tablet or on the web. Then we'll look at some of the content packs, what that is required, and they're just canned views from the OData. So the OData is an additional setup module within, after you've set up GP, you deploy the OData service. It requires an SSL certificate, and then once that's deployed from that install package, you have some configuration that you have to go back and do inside of GP. I'm not going to go through the install, but I am going to show you where the configuration tables are and how to set up those content packs once you get in and set up those options inside of GP. So jump back over into GP. So I've installed already the service, and I'm going to then go into Dynamics GP, Tools, Setup, and then System, and then you should now see an OData application. So the first one you need to do is put in the connection service URL, and that will be set up at the time of the application or the module setup. So you type the URL in here and simply hit the Save button to select it. The next one you need is your data sources. So I've simply published all the data sources for this company. There's other companies that you would see. For the content pack, the data sources that you need to have deployed for the content pack to function are the ones listed here on the screen. And this will be part of the recording, so you don't need to jot them down, but you can always go back and see the recording and the resources later. And once those ones that you want to publish are selected, then you come back in, and the final step is to publish the data. So you publish the data. This is the URL that it's published to. So you can, not only can you connect to it through the Power BI service or desktop, but you can also connect to it through Excel. And so anybody with the credentials to log in and find this particular information can do that. Once that's published, you then would need to go to your Power BI service, log in with your credentials, which I've already done, and then come to the apps area of the service. And then once you clicked on the apps, you'll have the Get Apps function down here, and you can simply type GP, and it'll come up with the GP content packs. And then Get Now, you'll have to then provide the connection information and go through that application to connect the service. And that is right here. So that information would then be able to provide the content packs and publish the content packs. So what do those content packs look like? Let's hop back to the presentation. So the content pack is 4 basic reports. One for financial that looks like this. So it's your basically income, net sales, cost of goods sold, and operating expenses, and with a basic slicer for the year. A content pack for the purchasing, so you can see your top 10 vendors, outstanding POs by vendor, and then extended cost and some of the requisitions or stuff needed to fulfill things. An inventory content pack, and these are just standard content packs to help you facilitate your Power BI process. They can be modified, they can be added to, and then a sales content pack. Those are all great and really nice. So just want to show you a little bit of what can be done with Power BI and some of the stuff that we've done for our clients. So this is all centered around GP data, actually GP CRM in a third-party application. And since CRM controls security for what account, we have row-level security basically driven off of the CRM data for the vendor. But this is an open orders, so it'll say where the open orders were, how long ago they were placed, from from what's outstanding with their product category and the particular customers or plant that may be manufacturing the stuff. And I can simply slice on any of the data or regions that I wanted to see what may be in that region, what plant may be manufacturing that goods, and do we have a customer analysis one, so I can see the last order for the company. If I was on 2018, I can see the last order for the company. I can also search for a particular company, see their orders for 2017, where they were at, what the growth rate was, what they sell or buy from the client from a point of the item, what the returns were or were they being manufactured. I have return analysis, so I can see what's being returned the most, what months may be above average. So I have back here in August above average returns for that month, so I may need to check it out. I can see where my returns, that 80-20 rule, okay, so 80% of my problems are coming from 20% of my goods, so I can see for that this is basically 80% here at D23. So the other items are the ones, or the defaults are the ones that I need to look at and try to correct those defaults to, basically streamline costs and become better operating and drive revenue. I can rank my customers dynamically, so if someone wants to see it at 20 or another person wants to see the top 50, can dynamically look at that. I can slice it by region, by time frame, and because the customer has a national account type of setup, I can drill down into the settings to see exactly what store I'm selling to from a national perspective. And then also what we did was rank our salespeople where they're at. So that gives a good perspective of how you can enhance the functionality of Power BI beyond the basic capabilities. And it is a great tool for both internal and external use in analyzing your data. So one of the other reporting functionalities that it comes with GP is over on the right is Microsoft Management Reporter. It's similar to FRX, replaced FRX. It's GL reporting only. There's a web component, so distributions can be handled via a web link. But the downside now is that Microsoft isn't doing any additional improvements on the application. Maybe potential bug fixes, but no major development work. So what they've done at least from a perspective of Dynamics 365, is partnered with Jet Reports and with GP, but it allows them your ability to use the Jet Reports Express for free to as a Excel add-in to look at design your reports, and not only look at the GL data, but also the subledger data, and being able to build from there. And also you could, go up to their pro licenses if you needed to. And I have a little bit to show with that. And it comes up with 20 reports out of the box, so to get you started. And I'm just waiting for it to fire up. And what it adds is just an add-in to the application, and my add-in is disabled for some reason. So it adds an add-in to the Excel, allowing you to look at connect to your database, create a connection, design your report, and refresh your report. And this is just a simple, small report, just looking at the time frame and our GL detail. And it goes back, queries the data, and simply returns that information, and then I have the ability to drill down into that detail from the application back to the GP data. And I can also make it expanding to give every department their own tab. And then inherently, when you do an add-in like this, that information is then available for Excel formatting, so I can do conditional formatting, charts, graphs on that data.
Okay, so thanks for your demos, Barry. I think that was very helpful for everyone. Again, if you have any questions, just please type them into the chat box, and we'll be answering all questions at the end of the presentation. So deployment options for Dynamics GP. As a Dynamics GP user, you have a really unique opportunity that most ERP systems don't provide you, which is a myriad of different ways to deploy your solution. You'll see out there you have a lot of strictly cloud-based or strictly on-premise solutions. GP is flexible in that it can be deployed traditionally on-premise on a server in your own environment. It can be deployed in the cloud like Microsoft Azure. You can have a private cloud-hosted solution, or you can have a hybrid solution, which is pretty much what most customers are doing right now. So we'll just show you a little bit about the Microsoft Azure ecosystem here. This is a great slide that just gives you an overview of what's going on. So you'll see 85% of Fortune 500 companies are using the Microsoft Cloud. As a small or mid-sized business, you have the opportunity to use the technology that these Fortune 500 companies are using, but scale down to meet your needs and your price point, which is very different than what you're seeing from other cloud competitors in the area. Azure has 34 regions around the world, which is more than AWS or Google. Microsoft is investing every day, and I think there was an article yesterday that came out that Microsoft Azure jumped up 20% market share while AWS or Amazon Web Services dropped about 40%. So as you can see, Microsoft is investing a lot here in their cloud. So this brings us to the end of the presentation, but again, we'll be answering lots of questions for you guys. We're going to be sending out a link to get all of these documents. So the GP 2018 New Features and Capabilities Guide. This gives you some great screenshots as well as an in-depth explanation to all of the new features and that licensing information that I shared earlier. We'll also send you the GP 2018 system requirements. So if you're looking at building out a new on-premise server or moving into a cloud environment, you can see what you need to run GP. And then we'll also send you a link to the new features blog that is put out there by Microsoft. This is a fantastic blog where they discuss a new feature every day or a few weeks. And I think it goes all the way into March or April, and it's published by Microsoft, and it's just a lot of great information that we wanted to share with you. So we are going to check the chat box now and see what questions we have. Okay, it looks like we have a few questions. One of them is, how do I figure out which packs I own? So in order to figure out which Microsoft Dynamics GP licensing packs you own, you have to log into Customer Source or speak with your Dynamics GP VAR. If you don't have access to Customer Source, I encourage you to reach out to us or to your VAR to see how you can get access. There's a lot of good information here, not only about the licensing that you own, but training information and documentation and different user guides. Let's see. Is additional licensing required for Power BI?
Now, for Power BI, that all depends on how you want to see the data. So there is a basic free version, allows you to publish your application, but it doesn't allow you to share your visuals with other people within the organization. So that's very limited in that aspect. So most people then go to the Pro version, which is $9.99 per month per user, allows them to share, add subscription-based data feeds, kind of like the subscriptions that you can do with SQL reporting services, and all that functionality. And then there's the premium version for more of the Fortune 500 companies where they have thousands of users from that angle.
Okay. How do I get Jet Express in my GP environment? That's a great question. So Jet Express is compatible all the way back to version 10 of GP, which if you're still on version 10, I'm glad you're on this webinar because you desperately need an upgrade. It's a pretty straightforward install that can be completed for you, and then I think with some training as well, your users can get up and running. We have some Jet Fast Financials training classes that can be performed so you can learn how to start building those reports and using the canned ones that are out there. I believe that's all the questions that we have. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to us. You'll see here you can email either your account manager here at KTL if you don't know who that is or you're not a KTL customer. You can simply email sales@ktlsolutions.com and we can answer all of your questions. I hope you found this webinar today informative and helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out.